First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's really a pleasure because half my life is spent doing this kind of thing, traveling with films, showing them all over, trying to have discussions, trying to get all these youngsters to come and watch and listen and hear, and of course encourage all these wonderful filmmakers who are really struggling against odds. So thank you very much for having me here, all of you. I don't have a big address, but just to sort of reflect on a few things that I've seen happening. First of all, of course, that last question, which is, where do you come from? Which is really an interesting question because I don't know if it happens in the rest of South India, but definitely in Kerala, the first question you are asked is, where are you from? And you need to know, of course, as somebody said, which village, which caste. So then there's a quick placement of caste. So there's a great sort of quickly pinning you down into something. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was never pinned down. Like all of you, or what you said, grew up somewhere else, parents from somewhere else. So, in a sense, I personally believe that really worked in my favor. That being an outsider, I was, for one, able to be, sort of have this view, and also I was not claimed by any particular group, people, this, that. So I was this peculiar character, and I think a lot of my work got done because of that. That, I mean, there was a lot of criticism, there's a lot of this, but the sense that, you know, she doesn't, they can't fit me into a little pigeonhole. But what I am seeing now with documentary filmmaking is, I won't call it pigeonholing at all, but I'm just seeing that when I see the kind of films Deepa made, or a lot of people made while they were struggling to sort of, while the documentary form was struggling in India, I see a lot of testimonial filmmaking coming up. Everybody, I find a lot now, people are turning inwards. Now, turning inwards and looking, whether it is your mother, whether it is your a letter you find. And I find that a very interesting phenomenon because I wonder whether the times have created this. The way, the times we are living in has created this inward looking. A lot of this inward looking is being created by this time that we are in. That, you know, it's almost like a defense that you use, I suppose, to say that, look, this is my story, this is from me, this is how. And of course, it's very beautiful, it's very, I mean, it's, your films, all of you, Bani's film, all of your films are so wonderful. But I'm seeing this a lot. This is just an observation that I'm seeing, that there seems to be a change in the form of the documentary filmmaking. But what has happened is also the explosion of the documentary from outside this frame. For example, your film, which depends on archives, which goes into an archive, that I find that the documentary is no longer just a film, but it's become like an archive. It is become an object that just doesn't stay within those four frames, for the screen, but provides you through either your found footage, through your being able to delve into these memories, to go out of this. And that is the most interesting thing that is happening with the documentary today, that it has exploded outside this frame. Now, of course, at one level, it's the art the art world, where you're saying that, okay, now, documentary is 4 screens, this, that, objects. It is documentary. It's very interesting. It is documentary. You put objects in front of the screen. You have 3 or 4 screens. You have voices. You have lights. But it is a documentary in a sense of telling a story you want to tell, a story based on some reality. The use of archives is what is really fascinating me today. How we are looking at both personal and public archives. It's not only personal. I mean, I look at Deepa's film on Rohit, and I just find it so fascinating that, it's not an archive in the traditional sense, but it's memory. It's memory of that time, it's memory of that period. Apart from the coverage of the period, you also have the memory of that period. So it's a very exciting time for documentary, I must say. And I think another observation is that, of course, as always, women are somehow in the forefront of this. It's really interesting. I think we've never been able to tell our stories like, with any intimacy, actually. You chat, you have groups, women are always in that kind of social situation, but to be able to tell your stories, I'm finding that today this medium is affording that. Very, very, Bani's story is really an intimate story. I don't know, 10 years ago, if anybody would have even watched a film like that, or been able to make a film like that. Somebody asked, can I just take an iPhone and make a film? Of course, today you can just take an iPhone and make a film. That's the point, that you can today just sit with your mother, chat, and make it into a film. Now, there is a lot of noise in that, of course, but through the noise, there are very beautiful voices coming through. There are women who are recording themselves, who are recording their experiences, remembrances, connections. And I think that's a very, very beautiful moment. And I think even in Sri Lanka, this is happening. Very, very wonderful work is happening. The other thing is about this worry that everybody has, which I would like to address a bit, that, I don't know where to get funds, I don't know how to pitch, I don't know how to go to a forum. I think it's a kind of a new colonization of our minds that is happening. That you have to learn to pitch a story. You have to know how to go to a lab and pitch a story. And what is happening is everybody's getting into that. I find youngsters, the first thing they come to you with a film idea is, I've got a pitch deck. This is how it's going to look. This is how, and everybody needs to have that. Otherwise, you're not ready to make your film. And that I find almost a conformist way of looking at documentary filmmaking. Because again, what you do is, you sort of make it to appeal to everybody, right? So you go to a forum, you'll have somebody from here, you'll have somebody. No, I'm not denying that you need funds, that you need money, that you need to, but are there ways that we can ourselves present our story ideas? You see, this is a very Western, market-driven kind of way of looking at independent cinema, where you say that unless you have it and you have what is this, ROI or something, return on investment. Have you heard it? Anybody? Yeah. The first thing is this ROI. What is the return on investment? It's so it's so off-putting actually, because, but I really believe that we have to create these spaces. We have to create these spaces where we can raise money, but can we use different models? Can the filmmaker talk differently? Can the pitch deck not be the bottom line of your story? So just to say that, many years ago, I was the director of this IFFK, and those days we used to have documentaries and short films and everything in the IFFK. And I used to be extremely perturbed because, of course, the documentaries nobody will go and watch. Everybody will go and see those big tamasha films from Cannes Film Festival, or the films with lots of sex and all that. But nobody will come to see the documentaries. And it used to hurt me so much because there were so many wonderful documentaries. So therefore, with much fight and much so on and so forth, we created a separate film festival, which was the Documentary and Short Film Festival. And I must say, it is a wonderful festival. But when I think, how does that festival grow? How does the festival just, is it enough to just, of course, community building in documentary and short filmmaking is very important. I think this sense of isolation, not seeing each other, not knowing each other, not having award functions, not having red carpets, all that make you all very isolated. Whereas the more mainstream fiction filmmakers have all this that throw them together, make them friends, etc. Documentary filmmakers don't have this. So I have been thinking for a long time that how does one create a kind of market situation where it's not about this notion of pitching, but the notion of matching, that you get people who will listen, listen to each other, listen to documentary filmmakers. Of course, that became a dream because I retired, but I'm still dreaming that we can. And the example for me is Nepal. The example for me is Nepal. 10 years ago, you would hear of, what's his name? What's that boy's name from Nepal, yeah, our friend? He was the only filmmaker you heard of from Nepal. Kesang. Kesang was the only filmmaker we heard from Nepal. And Nepalese films were, of course, they were, the complete scene was copying Bollywood, making these big films. Few people got together and started Himal, the film festival, started Doc School. And look at what's happening with that mentoring. Look at the wonderful films. Even here there are some films. Look at that's happening from, and Himal was a film festival actually. It started as a film festival and grew into all these other things. So I think this nurturing of the documentary filmmaker, recognizing that it has changed, recognizing that it's no longer that you go and shoot, but you are sort of using so many other devices, means, ideas that make this film. So, yeah, so I'm sort of struggling with looking at something that could be created, which gives a space for filmmakers, of documentary filmmakers to actually, because I admire what's happening at Doc Edge, Doc Commune. All these places are doing fantastic work, but are they pushing the documentary into a space of, I'm afraid to say this word, but it is true, of a Western eye? There is a way of looking at film that, or documentary film, and now, unfortunately, which is the big, big tragedy, is the platforms. You look at the Netflix documentaries and all, such interesting subjects, but look at the form. It's just the same form being repeated. You have an idea, you have a conflict, you have a resolution, you have the good family at the back. All that is happening. And now that's what we are facing, because they are commissioning documentaries also. Earlier they were only commissioning films. Now they are happy to commission these documentaries. So you have a wonderful filmmaker making Curry and Cyanide, which is a documentary about a woman who has committed a serial murder. But you just see it as a flashy film, and I do see a little bit of the filmmaker there trying to push ethical questions, etc. But it's a formula film, and that film is very popular today, that series or that episode, I don't know what it's called, very, very popular today. So the odds are very much against this kind of documentary film. And to have to say that today it is so important. Otherwise there are no voices. There are absolutely no voices. The voice, I think we found a way to look inside, to look, when you talk about partition, when you talk about Kashmir, when you talk about the film on the Naqab, all these films, I think, are sort of trying to do all this questioning, which is not possible today in a way that perhaps you did it a few years ago. I don't know if it was different, but it's certainly not possible today. So we have to protect, we have to nurture, and I think showing films is, of course, the very important things, and I think this sessions which Film Southasia has curated, we do IWAT in Delhi, we do something in Shantiniketan. It's, I know how many years Kutti's been at this, and really admire him for that. But we all have to do it, and I think a college is a totally wonderful place, though they all, like Cinderella, at 4:30 will vanish. But even if they are there till 4 o'clock, I'm sure all this has some effect. There is something that's going in there, and I hope that, of course, is the way change will come. Because, many years ago, same thing, when I was at the festival, everybody used to say, why a film festival? Why a film festival? Small state, there's no need to spend so much money, the state, etc. But I meet film sort of people over the years who talk about how life-changing those moments are. That you just come, you watch a film, and something happens. And you don't necessarily become a filmmaker. Lots of them, of course, in Kerala, everybody wants to be a filmmaker. But apart from wanting to be filmmakers, they also find something very special that they never find otherwise. So it's very important. This work is very important. We feel sometimes dejected because there are few people in the audience, or discussions are not as grand as we think, but it's important, and I hope we continue nurturing filmmakers like this through this work that we do. Thank you.